another tutorial. In this video, I'm going to show you how you can create a Skrillex X Nitepunk Reese bass sound. It's pretty much like a Nitepunk Reese bass, but I'm not going to remake the whole bass because it comes with a lot of effects. But if you want to grab the preset and the sound, it will be available on my Patreon. The link will be in the description of this video or on the bio of my social media. If you have already purchased the other preset from Nitepunk and the Skrillex, it will be a free upgrade for you. Just go and grab it. But if you want to learn something, just dive into this video with me because like many other videos, there's going to be a lot of tips and tricks given away. Okay, without any further ado, let's just dive into the sound. The first thing that I heard about the sound was it was pretty much like a saw wave. And if you want to make any Reese basses, they usually come with the simplest wavetables, either way sine wave or saw wave or square wavetable. By looking at the wavetable, the harmonics, I just realized this sound was made in a saw wavetable. So I started with that. But other than that, I hear a lot of pitch bends going up and down and the movement. Not that much, it's not really that hard. Other than that, it's just what I heard, and the phaser as well. So I started with the saw wavetable over here, and what I usually do is just to remove the fundamental. By that, I mean usually remove the first harmonic. So I would keep, I would reserve that space for my separate saw, which is going to be that single harmonic. Why am I doing this? Because when I go with detuning over here, it's going to fix all those phase cancellation issues afterward. But this is not the only way that you can just do detuning and that movement on your sound. This is just like a package of algorithm. It gives you the width and also the sounds, like the mono sound, like the center sound, and the range of the other unisons. But the other way would be having a second oscillator, just adding a fine tuning, like around 32, 36, will give you also the same movement and make your sounds intact in terms of whiteness. But other than that, I started with this one and I went to a filter. Like I said, I usually go with what I'm hearing, and it's just because it's a recreation. It might take much more time rather than just creating a new sound for myself. So I go pretty specific with the sound. I hear a lot of the high end has been removed from the original sound. So I started with that. I put on like a low pass filter over here, and just like my other processes, I go with the parallel. By that I mean one of the sounds goes to, after the filter, one of the sounds goes to the boss one and the other one goes to the main. I'm not sure if I may call this a parallel processing because they're both not going to a single external channel, but one of the boss channels goes with the main sound. So still, it sounds like a power processing to me. But on the effects, let's just start at the boss. I hear, as soon as I hear the sound, other than the vibration and the tuning and the movement, I can hear there's a phaser going on. So I started with that, with what I'm hearing at the first. So I started putting on the phaser, like 2 phaser in a row, until I am satisfied with the sound. And also you can use filter as well. I used the combination of both, all of them together. So I put it like 2 phaser over here and then a phaser filter. And I just declined mix a little bit, around 83%. Then I went with EQing and again doing some high cuts. And we went to, like just like many other of my presets, to separating everything, like the low, mid, and high. And what I usually start with is like the distortion and removing the unwanted frequency, if you know me. So I started with the tape saturation over here and I kept my low intact. Just like I said, I want to keep my sub bass intact. This is going to be for the higher frequency. And I put it as tape saturation because I found that it keeps the sound intact without adding any changes in terms of harmonic, adding harmonic at the top end. And then I put in like the OTT and I decrease the low end just to make sure that it will not conflict with my low frequencies, because even though I do have like the separation on these band frequencies, they're going to still have some covering each other and they're not completely like the brick wall cut. So I made sure that this will allow me to just remove that lower frequency. And then, like the old days, I did removing unwanted frequencies and adding two filters just to make sure my low would be until 322 hertz and my high would be until the same 345. Not that much. I mean, just like the 20 hertz that I'm playing around with it, but it doesn't necessarily mean then that I usually do this. I just go with the flow. That's why recreating simultaneously while I'm recording is really hard for me because it will take me hours. And it would take hours for you too, but that's a really good practice for everyone. So the second part would be the processing the high end. I pretty much copy and paste the same thing from like mid range, except I play around with the OTT over here. I didn't gain the mid or high, I just removed the low frequency and then just gained the whole thing together. And same as what I did at the mid frequency, I did the high cut and low cut just to make sure that everything is good together. It doesn't necessarily mean that you have to follow every rule. There's no obvious one way that you can achieve a sound. And you do not have to limit yourself within the box. Just go with Serum. You can always go with post processing and adding the stock plugins in your favor. I'm using Serum in here. I did this in Serum because it's more affordable and usable for every DAW. So whoever has Serum 2 can take this preset, apply the same effects, and just use it in their favor. And what I did at the very end was monoing my bass just to make sure that it will not face any phase cancellation and making sure that the low end would be mono. And the best place would be around 200 to 300 or even 400 to keep your bass and everything mono. In this particular case, I found that 222 was a really good sweet spot to make out because I found that the low end is a little bit wider, like a 300 below 300 hertz. So I keep it like wide in that range. Then it went to the main channel. I did pretty much the same thing. Now in this channel, sub bass is also included because my sub bass is it goes to the boss channel too. And on boss channel too, I always separate my sub. Sorry, I forgot to mention this. So I did like a 2 and low cut. That's pretty much it. And then I just made it mono. And then went to the main channel. So on my channel, I do have the sub and the harmonics at the top and end all together. This is where I have to come up with the conclusion. So I added on like a EQ just to remove the unwanted frequency, just like the old days. And I kept the low end intact. I want to make it like pretty much like simple as much as possible. And then I go with the mid and high frequency. Not much of effects, not much of difference between what you saw on the boss channel, on the first boss channel, and this main channel. It's just a matter of going with the flow and the taste of the flavor. And as you can see, I just gained the distortion over here because I want to boost everything as much as I can so I can hear all the flaws with the sound. And then I do have just a distortion compression on the top end for the higher frequency. And all of these will go to these effects. I will be like low cut, phase, just to emphasizing and then happening in the sound. And removing unwanted frequencies again, OTT, distortion, removing unwanted frequencies. And it is pretty much like the same sound. I'm just listening to the sound and then I can hear, okay, this frequency is something that I don't want to have on my sound. I have to remove it. Then I do it inside Serum. But again, you don't have to do this inside your Serum. You can go with a bunch of effects on your Ableton or FL Studio or whatever DAW you're using. You don't have to necessarily go with all the way inside Serum. It's just a matter of understanding of how the sound will change when you apply a process. I did the same exact thing just to group things together, like adding another OTT and removing unwanted frequencies, distortion, and making it mono again at the very low end. And again, just removing another unwanted frequencies. So as you can see, I don't usually boost my sound using EQ. Instead of using that, I just use distortion to group things together, or OTT. And I just use EQ to remove what I don't want. So either way, it's going to be before the distortion or OTT or afterwards, or even both together. But I don't usually it doesn't necessarily mean that I don't. It doesn't usually mean I don't usually go with the boosting like certain frequency and then playing around with the distortion and OTT. But that's just only for this specific sound. That is the sound by itself altogether. And for the other photos, I can tell that there's not much going on. It's just a little bit of movement on the master tuning, just to give the movement of the sound. And for the phaser over here, and you can see on this tab, just the phasers and EQ, just to add again a little bit of movement. Not that much. What I usually do, what I did during this process was adding all these low pass filters. So when I found that there's a certain knob or macro that would change the sound, like for this particular one was mostly like the low pass filters. I add a macro to it and then I just play around with the macro and just find the sweet spot and keep it that way. So I came up with the 5 low pass filters where I apply to every effects and filter during my process, and I just found out that this is the sweetest spot that I want to go with, and also 2 depth filter for my phasers and oscillator volume just to play around with the groove. And if I play around with the low pass voltage over here, you can hear there's going to be slight changes, but not that much. Let's just listen to it. As you heard, not much has changed when I apply all these macros, but those slight differences do matter when it comes to recreation. So that was for the sound. What I did also adding some MIDI movement, like a pitchman movement, just to add some groove, and that will be the sound for the first MIDI, and for the second one, because I wanted to have that. I can hear that. I might be wrong, but I do believe that they have used volume control other than just using the pitch band modulation. Just because I want to have all the way inside Serum, I went with the pitch band. But if you sample and play around with it, probably you can go with anything that you want as long as it sounds good. Let's go to the post-processing now. For the post-processing, I just realized the high frequency can be shifted a little bit lower. So that way, it will sound a little bit deeper. So I created this track. It's not really that much complicated. It's just separating like the low end and the mid and high. So the dry signal for my low end would be only the second channel over here, and the first one would be processed on the mid and high. And I just declined some of the fine tuning, so without it, it would sound like this. You can hear that's a little bit more deeper than it's supposed to be. And I add Q3 in. Q3 is my way to go in terms of controlling harmonics and sounds, and you can hear it. It doesn't make that much of changes. It just controls the dynamic. Not something necessarily that you have to go with, but it's the best thing when you want to control your frequencies. So on the last part, I just add a filter for the very end, just because it has like a really pitch down at the very end of the sound, like this part. And if I just add this, you see there's a lot of sub bass added to the sound, which I don't want to. And if you had this sound like the separated in a separate channels like the soft and the high end. You could just remove the soft, but I achieved that by just adding some filters over here just to make sure that the sound will be not included at the very last bit. And the second filter is just replicating the delay sort of effects. It's pretty much the same sound, but just filter all the way. Nothing that much. Just this. With an EQ and the saturator. And at the very end, I do have the glue compressor just to make sure everything is glued together. That's pretty much it for this sound. If you want to do some reverse engineering, probably want to go and grab the preset. It's available on my Patreon. And you can support me by liking, subscribing, or commenting on this video. If you don't want to purchase anything, that would be really helpful. I hope had a great time during watching this video, and peace out.